Hello everybody and welcome back. In this lesson, we are diving into a very important topic that every Django developers must understand: validation and error handling in Django forms. Now, whenever user fills forms in your web app, whether it's a sign-up form, a feedback form, or a workshop creation form like the one that we will build today, you must ensure that the data they have entered is correct and safe before saving it. And Django makes this extremely easy with built-in validations, along with the option to write fully custom validation rules for your specific business logic. So in this lesson, we will cover three main things: built-in validation in Django forms, custom validation methods, and a complete workshop creation form validation example. By the end of this lesson, you will know exactly how to write both simple and advanced validation rules, handle errors, and show helpful messages to users. So let's begin. So let us understand how Django makes form validation incredibly powerful and simple. Django helps us check user input automatically, and when needed, we can add our own custom rules. Let's start with what Django gives us right out of the box. Validation simply means verifying that what the user typed is acceptable. If a field accepts an email, Django will check if the input looks like an email. If a field expects a number, Django ensures it actually is a number. The great thing is, Django automatically runs these validations based on your model or form fields. We don't have to do anything extra to enable this. Now, Django comes with built-in validation rules for almost every situation. If a field is required, Django checks that. If you set max length, it enforces that. Email fields validate email formats, integer fields accept only numbers, and so on. Whenever you call form.isValid, all these checks are applied automatically. Now here is a quick example we saw earlier. Django will ensure the name stays within 100 characters, email contact is a valid email, stock quantity is a number, and description can be empty because we explicitly say blank equal to true. All of this is automatic, no extra code is needed. Now, built-in validations are great, but what if your app needs rules that Django doesn't know? For example, maybe users should not be allowed to pick a restricted username, or maybe you need to compare two fields. That is when we write custom validation. Django provides two powerful ways to add custom validation methods. We can validate a single field using clean_field name, or validate multiple fields using just the clean method. Let's take a look at both. Here is a classic example of validating a single field. This method runs automatically when Django validates that field. We access the cleaned value, apply the rule, and if it is false, raise a validation error. If it is valid, then we return the cleaned value. Now the clean method handles cross-field validation. Django calls it after every individual field is cleaned. This is the perfect place to compare fields like passwords, dates, or any logic that depends on multiple inputs. Now let's head over to the CodeChef platform and create a workshop creation form example where we will apply the following validation rules. The title cannot be default workshop title. The maximum participants should be greater than or equal to 10. That means the participants cannot be less than 10. And the registration deadline must be before the workshop date. So let's see how we can put this into action. So here I am on the CodeChef platform and we have this workshop creation form validation. So in the file explorer, we can see that we have a project called My Project and an app called Workshop App. And then we have the corresponding forms.py file for the app, the models.py file, the views.py file, and the URLs for the app as well as the project and the templates that we are using. So all of them are open here on the text editor. So let me first show you the models.py file. So if you look at the models.py file, these are the fields that we have in our model. So we have defined a model called workshop, and then the title, maximum participants, registration deadline, and workshop date are the fields that we will have in our models. And these are the ones that we'll be using in our form as well. So title is a character field with maximum length 200, then max participants is an integer field, registration deadline is a date field, and workshop date is a date field. So here Django will already apply the built-in validations. That means it will already check if title is a character field and if this max length is satisfied, and even for the other fields that we have, it will check, like for example, if this is a number and if this is actually a date, and so on. So these are the built-in validations which are automatically provided by Django. You don't have to write anything extra for that. Now let's say that we want to have some custom logic which we already discussed. Like the title cannot be default workshop title, and maximum participants should be greater than or equal to 10, and registration deadline must be before the workshop date. Now in order to do that, let's go to the forms.py file. So in this forms.py file, you can see that we have created a form called workshop form, and then you can see that we have used the title, max participants, registration deadline, and workshop date from the model that we already have. So we are just saying forms.character field, forms.integer field, forms.date field, and we have given a label here saying registration deadline, please provide it in MMDDYY format, and same for the workshop date. Now how we do all this, we have already studied when we have discussed the previous topics in forms, so I'll not go into the details of that. Now here we have a function called clean title. So what does this do? Let's see. Here we are trying to get the cleaned title. That means Django will get the cleaned version of the title that you have entered. So self.cleaned_data.get will get the cleaned version of that title that is entered, and it is stored inside title. And now here is where we are applying our custom validation rules. So in our custom validation rules, the first rule was that the title should not be default workshop title. Default workshop title, that sentence should not be allowed. So in order to do that, I have an if condition here. It says if title and title.strip.lower equal to default workshop title. So we have an if condition here, and there are two things in this if condition. First is if title. Now what if title will do is it will check if the title actually contains a valid value, and then we convert that title into lowercase, and then we are checking if it is equal to default workshop title. So if this is true, that means we have to raise a validation error. So it says raise forms.validation error, and this is the error that you will be displaying to the user. Please choose a more specific title, and then we return the title. So this is for the custom validation rule to check that the title is not default workshop title. Then next we have to check that the maximum participants is greater than 10. So for that, again in this function called clean max participants, I get the cleaned value from the max participants and store it into max participants here. And again we have an if condition which checks if max participants actually has a valid value, and it checks if the maximum participants is less than 10. So if it is less than 10, we must raise the error. So if it is less than 10, we say there must be at least 10 participants. This error message will be shown to the user. And here in this last clean function, we are getting the complete cleaned data, and then we are also getting the cleaned registration deadline and workshop date. And here in this if condition, we are checking that if registration deadline and workshop date are valid values, and then we also have to check if the registration deadline is greater than or equal to workshop date. So registration deadline cannot be greater than the workshop date, we know that. So if this condition becomes true, that means we again raise a validation error saying registration deadline must be before the workshop date, and we return the complete cleaned data that we got over here. Now let me show you the views.py file. Now in this views.py file, we import our form, which is workshop form, and also the model, which is workshop. And here in this function called create workshop, if the request method is post, then using the request.post, our workshop form, we store it into this form variable, and then we check if the form is valid. So when we say if form is valid, it is going to check if it is a valid form, and if it is valid, then all the values that we have entered will be stored in this form. So title equal to form.clean data. So it is the cleaned one that we are getting, the cleaned title. Then max participants, we are storing the clean data from max participants, and similarly from registration, deadline and workshop. And then we are just redirecting to workshop success view. And now this else part is the one that will work if it is not a post, but if it is a get request and we just want to show the empty form. For that, we are just rendering the create workshop.html template. Now this is the workshop success view where we were redirected from here. So here what it does, if it is successful, then we just show a success.html template. Okay, it is rendered over here. So those templates are all present here. The create workshop is here where we can enter the values. Then the success template is also here where it will show the success message. So I'll not go into the details of the templates and the URLs. You can check them out yourself. Now let me just run and show you how it works, and let's see if the validation rules have been applied correctly. So when I click on the run button, you can see that the server is starting, the migrations are all applied, and then you can see on the right hand side that our form has loaded correctly in the home page. Okay, so let me open this in a new tab and let me enter some invalid values first. So for example, title, it cannot be default workshop title. So this is an invalid title. I've entered that, and max participants also should be greater than 10. Let me say 9 here. And registration deadline, let me say it is 12th of December 2025. Now workshop date I say is December 11th 2025. So here we see that registration deadline is after the workshop date, which is an error. So if I click on submit, you can see here registration deadline must be before the workshop date. This one error has come up and it says please choose a more specific title. This is also an error because this was not allowed, and participants also should be at least 10. So let's correct all this. So let me call the title my workshop title, then let me say participants is 19, and let us change the registration deadline to December 10th. And now let's click on submit. Now it says workshop created successfully. So we see that all the custom validation rules that we have applied are working correctly in this example.
Great job! In this lesson, you learned how Django handles validations automatically and how you can extend it using custom validation methods. We also built a complete workshop creation form example with all the rules enforced using both field level and form level validations. Now your next step is to practice. Open the corresponding practice problem that is available for this lesson on CodeChef and try it out yourself to strengthen your understanding. I will see you in the next one.